Okay, preparing. Yay. Awesome. All right, let's see. Okay. Do a difference. This takes a little bit of time.
Okay. No problem. I'll just sip.
Yes. All right, I'm pinned both of us, but I don't know why it's not showing up that way. No big deal. And is it going to let me go? Go live. All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 10 of Politics and Prosecco. As you know, we changed the format. And again, we want to shout out Lori Lennon, who is no longer a host with us, but always a friend to the show. So today's episode is in two parts. One, we're going to have our What You Sipping On segment. So I hope you got your Prosecco ready, as I do. Y'all know I stay with LaMarca, but also it's a very special segment because we always unveil our secret guests. And this segment is called The Politics of Rhetoric. And so my special guest today is Boston chapter of the NAACP president, Tanisha Sullivan, Esquire. Tanisha, say hello to the audience.
Hi, how are you? It's good to be here. So do I get to talk about, so I
Tell us what you're sipping on.
So of course, McBride sisters. I got to get the turn here on my camera for those who can't see. You know, supporting the sisters, and so I am sipping on their sparkling brut rosé this evening. For those who haven't had the opportunity to enjoy the McBride sisters collection, I encourage you to do so. And you know, we should be supporting Black businesses 365 days of the year. But if you feel like that's too much, this is the gateway to Black History Month. So we're going to need you to spend some good dollars with Black businesses, at least during the month of February. But of course, we encourage it 365 days of the year.
I encourage.
Do I sip on that?
I encourage one drink a day for 365 days anyway. So it's fine. So cheers to the McBride sisters for even having the vision for this. Like, I live for any time a Black woman steps into her power. Yeah. So here for it.
The other one. So I love McBride sisters, and then I'm looking for. I also enjoy Brown Estate, and so they also are Black owned, and so that's another winery to check out. Brown Estate. You know, we're everywhere.
Yes. So, Tanisha, as you know, well, first of all, thank you for coming on to the show. I appreciate you. You know, you're my sister friend anyway, but I appreciate you stepping in. So here we are at the beginning of an election year. And part of this is the mayoral race is happening. We just came off of a very, very tiring presidential race. Tiring because it was an active voting base, really. Everyone was engaged because there was, on both sides, the Republicans were tapping into the anger of their base, And the Democrats were really tapping into activating the voters that were already out there. And that were maybe saying, I'm going to sit this one out, but activating and engaging them. And we saw that in Georgia. We know that this is unprecedented. We know that these numbers are not normal. But what we do know is that if you activate a base, they will come out to vote. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. However, we've also are in the middle of what I like to call petty politics. And petty politics is oftentimes, people mudslinging. And today on the What You Sippin' On episode or segment, I want you to talk a little bit about how distracting the rhetoric is for any race when what we need to be doing is actively engaging people and staying out of sort of this very dismissive kind of politics that we're in right now.
So I want to start by taking us back to 2017, when actually it began before 2017 during that presidential election in particular. Certainly, as we know, 2016, Donald Trump wins the election. 2017, he is inaugurated. And what that set off for really 4 years was the amplification of the use of rhetoric in a way that served as a distraction, and in a way that served to divide, right? And in many respects, what we heard, whether it was amplified through the media or through other means, what we heard was really only scratching the surface of what was happening behind the scenes. What do I mean by that? We heard and saw an administration that was flagrant with its racism and its sexism and its xenophobia, its homophobia, you name it, they were against it. And we were oftentimes so jarred by the words and the rhetoric that we tended to many of us got to the point where we tuned it out. But what was happening behind the scenes, classic example, was that the administration was very busy, very diligent behind the scenes, making decisions, implementing policy, making appointments that will have generational impact. Prime example are the federal bench appointments. The Trump administration was able to, at the beginning of their term, set out a strategy that was designed to fill as many federal judgeships as possible.
Yes.
The point, what's important about that is those are lifetime appointments. Okay, those are lifetime appointments. And judges, particularly at the federal level, are making decisions that, or issuing rulings, hearing cases and issuing rulings that oftentimes speak specifically to our Constitution and constitutional rights. And we know, particularly in the fight for racial justice, for gender justice, for immigrant justice, for workers' rights, we tie those arguments, those legal arguments, back to the Constitution. And so what this administration was very skillful at doing, and look, I'm gonna give them a nod on this one because it was a win for them. They were very skillful at using rhetoric that was jarring, that drew our attention, that had us emotional, very upset, and justifiably so on the front end. But on the back end, they were working the plan. And the plan that they worked has now hundreds of federal judges who have lifetime appointments. And by the way, they did not put folks on there who were in their 50s and 60s for the most part. They put folks on there who were in their 30s.
Right, who could be there for a while.
Generations.
That's right.
Impacting and informing our laws. And so one of the things that that is particularly important for us, for those of us who do justice work, regardless of, justice work, is to make sure that we are not so taken by the rhetoric that may be overt, that might be right in front of us, that we're not able to see the work that is happening that might not be as visible, right? Because oftentimes when people are working against us, when people are not supportive of advances for gender rights and for racial justice and environmental, like all the things that we advocate for, they're doing it behind the scenes. And so we have to be mindful of not just what we can see on the surface, but we should always, for those of us who are civil rights warriors, we social justice warriors, we should always be looking beneath the surface to see what else might be happening in the space around us.
So I think you're right especially on the federal level, where it has more of a nationwide effect, right? Like they get out there, they have platforms of media and press. And a lot of them tend to play to the media and to the press to get their point across. And I get that, you get that. But here we are on the local level now, and we are starting to see that dribble into local elections, state and municipal. And so as a social justice warrior, as someone who sits in a seat where you are talking about advocacy on all levels, what do we tell voters who get their information from social media and and
Stop.
how do we tell those people to stay engaged and sort of move beyond the rhetoric? Because people aren't going to read, legislation, right? Legislation is like 432 pages long sometimes. People aren't going to read that. And I get it. But there is something to be said for sticking to the facts and not getting involved in the rhetoric, which is what we're starting to see. And the problem is that backlash will happen and it will affect the voters. It won't necessarily affect the people who are in office.
Look, absolutely. Look, folks have been, specifically when we talk about communities of color and low income communities, some people bank on us not doing our own research.
That's right.
Some people bank on the fact that, you put something on social media and people will believe it. That is a strategy.
Yes.
And we need to be aware of that. And so what I encourage folks to do, and you're right, look, some of these things, whether it's legislation or even, doesn't even have to be 700 pages, Jaquetta. It could be like a one-pager, right? And we're like, I have to read that myself,
That's right.
This is what I'll say. I will always encourage us to be on a learning journey together and to do our own research and to make sure that we are, getting as close to the original source on information as possible. I will always encourage that. I'm always going to encourage us to read. There's power in that. There's a reason why when we were enslaved as a people, we were denied the opportunity to learn how to read. There's power in literacy.
Don't make me get my tambourine together. Okay.
So I will always advocate for us to read. Okay. Always. That said, I understand that some of this stuff, people might be like, okay, I read it, but I don't understand it. Because sometimes I read the stuff and I'm like, I could read this like 10 times, right? So I encourage folks, look, find a trusted source, okay? There's nothing that can ever replace you doing your own research, but find a trusted source that you can follow. Or I would say at least 2 to 3 that you can follow so that you can supplement your own, personal learning, your own personal research with the thoughts of other folks that can help to shape and inform how you think about an issue.
Yeah.
But particularly, and I'm going to get there with you, Jaquetta, particularly when we think about well, this is what I'll say. Every year is an election year. Just to
Every year. It feels that way.
every year is an
Every
election.
year.
This one here in the city of Boston, will be particularly exciting. I do declare it shall be exciting because we have an open mayoral race with no incumbents, and we have a city council race that is poised to be quite vibrant as well.
Say that again. Vibrant. Did you say vibrant?
Vibrant.
I appreciate your flower words.
Look, we have vocabulary. We have vocabulary.
Oh.
So I do think it will be important for all of us to be mindful of distractions.
Yes.
Okay, and not get caught up in the rhetoric, meaning don't get caught up in what the people say. We need to stay focused on what the people are doing and what they have done. Okay, hear me. Don't get caught up in what the people say, because there's going to be a whole lot of rhetoric. There's going to be a whole lot of declarations and promises and, beliefs that have suddenly appeared out of thin air. We need to ask the tough questions. And I don't care who the candidate is. We need to ask the tough questions about what have you done to demonstrate, to show evidence for what you are saying you are going to do. Okay.
So listen. So
yes.
here's how I'm sort of approaching not only just this municipal race, but races going forward, elections going forward.
Yep.
Because of COVID, people can't do a regular retail candidate sort of program. They can't go and shake hands. They can't, they can't do house parties. They can't do like in-person fundraisers. So people are going to have to run on record. They're going to have to run. If you're an incumbent, I'll say this, if you're an incumbent, you're going to have to run on your record. Yep. And listen, I know you can't say it, but I will say it.
Okay.
Some folks running don't have a record to run on. I just said it. And listen, take a sip after that. Because it's the truth. And what you're going to see is a lot of people jockeying to say, I've done these 10 things, but there's no actual facts behind it. So I say, when it comes to rhetoric, first of all, consider the source, right? Yeah. If you're out here on social media and you're getting caught up in the middle of fights between electeds or fights between elected and constituents, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're doing yourself a disservice, because what you should be focusing on is what the people who want to represent you are bringing to the table and how they're going to advocate for you once you get there. There's a big difference between being a politician and being an elected official. And I've said that before, over and over and over again.
Right.
And I'm no longer dazzled by the celebrity of politicians. I just don't care. Just don't care.
But also, look, it's we can't play with this thing. We are in the middle of a global public health pandemic that did not pass the city of Boston by. We are in the middle of an economic crisis that has wreaked havoc across our city, whether we're seeing it or not. We're in the middle of a crisis that has our children at jeopardy for losing not one, but potentially upwards of 2 years of schooling. And that's before we take into consideration that before this pandemic, our district had already been noted as being significantly behind in terms of providing a quality education for our children. This is nothing to play with, okay?
Yeah.
And so when we talk about elected officials, for me, what's most important is that we have to remember that there's a job that needs to be done here, right? There's executive function for the mayoral seat, right? There's also, you know, there's policy making that must happen. There's relationships that must be in existence. Not being built, in existence. We're in the middle of a crisis. We don't have time to play. There's not a whole lot of ramp up time. This is not a time to talk about potential. This is a time to talk about, are you ready? Because there's too much on the line, and specifically for working class people in this city, working class families in this city, that do not have the privilege of having a mayoral campaign or a city council campaign that is not focused on the bread and butter Main Street issues that are impacting kitchen tables across this city today.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, here's the thing, because we're coming up on time, and every time I talk to you, I wish I had a wig on so I could snatch it off and you start giving the benediction.
Girl,
so let me just say that this is going to be an interesting year. It's going to be a feisty mayoral race. It's going to be a feisty city council race on the at-large side. And listen, nobody's safe.
Well, and not just the at-large, we got some district seats too.
We got some district seats.
We got some district seats too.
As my good friend said, your seat ain't safe. That's right. Your seat ain't safe.
I have a t-shirt.
So you got to get out here and work, and it's going to be tough. So I thank you for coming on for the What You Sipping On segment. We appreciate you giving a shout out to the McBride sisters. Sponsor me, y'all. Sponsor me. and we'll have you on again. We'll do you on maybe after the summer when we might have a couple of candidates left.
Well, listen. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Jaquetta, it is always a pleasure anytime. Thank you so much for inviting me, welcoming me into your space. And I appreciate the opportunity to share with your followers.
Well, thank you.
And hopefully folks had a little bit of fun with us.
Yes. So see you later.
Bye.
All right, y'all. Next up is District 1 City Councilor Lydia Edwards, here to talk about all the things that are happening in the city, but in particular, we're going to ask her some real tough questions too. So let's bring her in. Lyd, you here? There you are. Let's pin you. Can't hear you though, girl. Unmute yourself.
Sorry about that.
All right. So listen, we just had Tanisha Sullivan on to talk about on our What You Sipping On segment about rhetoric and how it is a distraction.
Okay.
And so I know that you are, first of all, District 1 City Councilor, right?
Yes.
So we want to acknowledge that. Tell everybody what your district is. What towns does that encompass, or neighborhoods, I should say?
Okay, it encompasses 3 neighborhoods. That is East Boston, where I live, Charlestown, and the North End.
And the North End, okay. And so here we are in the middle of an election. Well, not even the middle, it's the beginning of the election year. So the mayor, so let me just bring everybody up to speed in case you don't know everything. So Joe Biden gets elected. He taps Marty Walsh to become Secretary of Labor, which isn't a far stretch because Marty Walsh is a labor guy. He always has been. So it's natural that that's his niche. It's a natural pick. I'll be honest, I actually didn't think that the mayor would get picked because there's so many big labor guys. There's folks in New York, there's folks in Chicago. So I always think of Boston as a small city. Right. And often Massachusetts is like the last to be looked at for a lot of stuff. So I have to admit, I didn't think we'd lose the mayor. And I hate to say lose because he's always going to be part of the city, but he's going to be doing big things. He'll be called Secretariat from now on.
Very well.
But so what that has done is now it has led to sort of some consternation inside of, that's a big word. I'm gonna sip that because I love that word. But it has led to some consternation within municipal government as to how the process happens, when the process happens, and what the result of that will be. So you are the chair of the committee that is supposed to hold a hearing.
Correct.
So can you tell the people in very plain terms what is supposed to happen when the mayor resigns, and then bring us up to speed as to where we are now? Because here's what I know. I know what social media says. I know what social media trolls are saying. I know what I hear some elected officials saying, and I know what the charter states. So I'm interested in hearing in very plain terms and very short terms too. What the hell is going on?
What the hell is going on? Okey-doke. So our charter is very clear that if the mayor leaves within 16 months of the prior election, that we're supposed to have a special election. So for many of us, that's a question of, if the mayor leaves before March 5th, should we have a special election, which would essentially have a prelim and a general in June, and then turn around and have another election for the fall with a prelim in September and a general in November. So our charter technically sets that up. The mayor leaves before March 5th to do all of that. And it just didn't make any sense in a pandemic to have a special election for someone to be mayor for 2 months to be running for election again. It didn't make democratic sense. We also didn't know we could turn ballots around fast enough to make sure people could vote safely. So people might have to physically go there. State House, a deadline on mail-in ballots was ending March 31st. There's a lot of up in the air. And what made sense is stability, stability, stability. 4 mayors, not stable. You know, 2 mayors, stable. Or mayor, acting mayor, and then the new mayor. So that's what Councilor Arroyo introduced. And the process is very simple. For all legislation, you introduce it, it comes to my committee. I have a hearing where the public comes in and says everything they want to say. Then I have a working session where the councilors get to work and you get to watch us, which we did that today. And then I pull it for a vote. And that's where we are right now. We had the hearing, 4.5 hours. There was overwhelming support to not have a special election. Working session today, we got 2 consensus, which is what we're supposed to do, and make sure that we have like language we all can agree on. And I could say, honestly, we walked away together as a more united city council today. Oh yeah.
Well, that's good.
And then wow, what's the eye roll for? You don't want united? Okay.
No, I'm here for the unity, but I would love to see that unity on social media.
Well, social media, a lot of people love to play like they're a politician and what they would do in all levels, right? But I'm an actual one, so I'm actually got to do the work. And the fact of the matter is, it's leadership, it's coming together, it's bringing all perspectives, concerns, lack of trust, anger, the racial divide, division, and concerns about whether you're trying to come for the power of whether you're trying to really make sure you're helping your candidate, all that came out. And the fact is, after all that, we know we're safer, more united, and more democratic if we don't have the special. So if we all agree, if the fight is really just about language, well, let's get to work and get this over with. And I'm proud of the body I serve with, because we got it. Not only did we get it over with and get to the consensus, we're going to hash out some final things, but unlike the State House, we actually got to work so everyone could see us. No offense to my colleagues in the State House, but see, open meeting laws apply to us, so we actually have to do it all in front of you. And the State House, my colleagues, my friends, the ones who I know will ultimately pass the the special election thing, they're good people, but they never get to do it in front of anybody. So we got to work. I feel so confident right now, and I feel that we're more united than we ever been before to handle this.
Well, that's good. So I feel like, I'm just gonna be honest, because first of all, what we do here at Politics and Prosecco is to ask the hard questions and to bring truth to light, right? Like it's not a shade fest today, but it is a space where we want people who may be a little bit removed from the process to understand exactly what's going on.
Right.
And what's been happening over the last week has been a lot of sort of tennis, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
everybody going back and forth. Somehow tennis rackets turned into hockey sticks, and people were just, you were a target, Miss Ma'am.
I
And
was.
so I wanted to make sure that people understood so that they can make an informed decision about whether they thought you were right or whether they thought you were wrong, or whether they thought the process wasn't followed, or whether they didn't know what the process was.
Right.
For me, I was just saying to Attorney Sullivan that we have to be better and more intentional about the information that is going out, and we got to do our own research. And she's right about that. If you're not doing your own research and you're leaving it to social media to inform you about your government, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Correct.
So, look, I want to make sure that everybody is always in the middle of a kumbaya session. That's great. But government and politics can be messy sometimes. And it's supposed to be nasty sometimes, because you're fighting to advocate for people that come from all different walks of life, that have different values.
It's democracy. It's democracy. Democracy isn't nice. Democracy is about being at the table. It's about hashing things out. And that's what we did today. We went back and forth. We went all over the place as a city council, what our concerns were, what we didn't like, what we liked, and all these different things. And we ultimately said, okay, what gets us the most votes? What gets us united? And that's what we did. Yeah. Because if we already knew we didn't want the special, if it's only language that's dividing us right now, let's not get caught up in that mess.
So what happens now? What happens from this point on?
I will write up the final draft, Councilor Arroyo, and I will make sure it's reflective of exactly what he wanted, with some consensus to get the other colleagues on board. And then I will present it on February 3rd for a vote. It gets voted out. I'm confident we have the votes. It gets voted out, goes to the mayor's desk. He needs to sign it, then go to the State House, and it needs to pass both sides of the body, Senate and House, and be signed by the governor. When that happens, there will be no special.
Okay, so can you just explain to everybody that what no special means?
Sure. It means that little itty bitty mini election that we're supposed to have if the mayor leaves before March 5th is just going to be canceled. We're just going to say, let's go to the fall like normal. Everybody's expected to be elected a mayor in the fall. Let's just go to the fall. And that's all.
So I will say it because I can. I will say that. It's a clown car so far. A bunch of people have jumped into the race. I'm not calling people clowns.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's that kind of like everybody's jumping in and everybody is trying to get a seat in the car.
Not me.
Well, not you, girl. But it's a lot of people running, and we have to be. So let me just start by saying there were already 2 women who decided to challenge the incumbent mayor. So we got to give them their flowers for that, for them not waiting for him to run, for him to leave to decide, oh, I want to be mayor. So Andrea and Michelle, kudos to that kind of stepping into your power. Kudos for the courage, for all of that. Great. Side note to that, though, is now we have, I almost want to say, I got a list this morning. There's like 11 people running. I don't know how accurate that list is. I don't know how accurate it is, because a lot of it is, oh, I talked to so-and-so's cousin and she said that he's going to run on Friday and, whatever. So now that there's possibly not going to be a special and it's going to go to the general, that means more people will probably decide to run, and the city itself is going to have to fracture because everyone will start to pick a side. Where do you come down on sort of staying out of the fray and just focusing on, see, this is what happens when
you talk politics.
It's starting to repeat on me. So where do you come down? Because you have your own election to run too.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you're probably thinking, I'm going to stay out of the fray and focus on my own election now. I don't know who you're going to endorse. And we're not asking you right now.
Mhm.
But since you've been sort of the target for the last week, how are you going to go back to your constituents now and say, listen, this was my plan and this is what I got done, so that you can sort of reclaim the narrative on that?
So I think one thing we started to do is government ops, like charter or chair chats, where we're going to just do like quick videos explaining what's going on in my committee. A lot of people have no idea what the heck government ops means, what it
Yes.
does, why it matters. And so I need to start to just go ahead and explain it. So what's coming up, what's going out, what the controversies are around it. I'm going to make sure that that's regularly coming from my voice. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of, the narrative, a lot of my narrative is the I'm the woman who gets it done. I get the votes, I set it up, I get it done. And oftentimes I just need to make sure that people know what is getting done. But I don't intend to get involved in anyone's politics. You have a great idea, you want to make it a law. I don't care if you're running for mayor, I don't care if you're not. It comes through my committee. And I promise everybody the same thing, the same rhythm. Hearing, working session, work on the language, and we'll put it to a vote. I'm not playing politics with anyone's ideas. So that's it. So sometimes just getting the work done and producing results is better than me trying to fight people like windmills on social media. They love you one day, they hate you the next.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Mm-hmm.
hate you, then love you. And then so
See,
on
and
and so
here's
forth.
where I think it is important that people stay above the fray, because there's something of dignity when you're in an elected office. There is some responsibility with the message that you're sending out.
Right.
Social media has become a diary, a journal, everybody's show for their own personal agenda. But what happens is it becomes dangerous when you're spewing from your own agenda as opposed to what's for the greater good. And so, what
Mhm.
I would like to see from not only just the Boston City Council, across the state when it comes to local elected officials, is that there is more of an intentional behavior around what you're putting out to the masses.
Right.
I am not impressed by anybody, but I do want to know what is happening in a city that I pay taxes in, or a city I play in, or the city I
Right.
live and work in. That's important to me. I am so unbothered by people and their agenda. I
Mhm.
just want the work to get done. And I want it to be in a space where, number one, you're not
Exactly.
making it seem like my people can't understand what's going on
Oh, that's
and won't understand what's going on, because that
or
is
don't
an
care or
insult.
don't care. That's even more
Right.
insulting, right?
That's
Yeah.
an insult to the people who bled and sweat for this land that I now stand on. So we
Mhm.
need to cut that out. And then secondly, we also have to be aspirational in what we're asking of these people who represent us.
Right.
It's okay to call your city councilor and say, listen, I didn't agree with what you did, or I don't understand what you did, and so that is why I'm angry. It's not okay to get on social media and go after somebody when you haven't talked to them, when
Right.
you haven't accessed the resources that you need in order to make an informed decision. Now, I'm
Or
not
at
going to say I have never been that person, because we all do it. We do it in friendships, we do it in relationships, we do it with your parents, family. Everyone at some point jumps off and makes an ill-informed decision, and it costs.
all right.
But it costs lives sometimes when it is an elected official.
And I think sometimes people have platforms, and sometimes people think they have bigger platforms than they do. I would just encourage people with whatever they're feeling and thinking to be honest. I did not speak with Councilor Edwards, but I'm assuming the following things about her:
Mm-hmm.
good, bad, whatever. And then just say that so that people can understand it literally is not based off of any fact because you haven't confirmed anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to say something, I mean, it's Lydia with a Y. I've been very clear. If you're going to
Oh,
say, call
cannot,
me out, call me out.
cannot.
Spell my name correctly, though. It's okay. Okay. Because I get it
Where my
right. It's
sunglasses at?
Lydia with a Y. And, just say it, and also just, like own that space. But there's a certain point where, you you wonder, what's the point? There's some people who will tag me in or other elected officials, right, as a form of communication style. And I really wonder, is that really that most effective? I don't always have the app on my phone, right? I have my phone for my office. I have the public email, both are public.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes I get confused as a city councilor. Are you actually asking me to do something, or are you wanting the world to see that you are calling me out? I don't know sometimes. I honestly just write the email, make the phone call, be some concerns. I'm just trying to tell people those are the most effective way if you want to get to me, because I have staffers monitoring all that. But if you just want to go on my personal page and say something and something else, then I don't know how, if you, I get confused. Do you really want something to get done, or are you just trying to be seen being seen?
Yeah. To ask you this, there's a possibility you might have some new colleagues.
Yeah.
I'm not being shady, y'all. I'm really not. I'm on my best behavior right now. There's a possibility that you might have some new colleagues. Is it your hope that there is a sense of decorum when you become an elected official, that everyone behaves in a certain manner? Or is it sort of a free-for-all, like, listen, do your own thing, go after what you need to? I am of the world that when you become an elected official, you are responsible for everything that you do and say, every space that you walk in, all of that.
Right.
My mother used to say when I was a kid, you can't buy class. You're either born into it or you acquire it. And some people think that it's classy to be ratchet on social media.
Well,
I said it.
I do not think it's, yeah, you said it. But let me just say this to my future colleagues, whoever you may be. It's a special club to be in when you are elected to represent other people and spend their hard-earned money. And if you take either role, either as a group of people's voice, or spending their money, if you take it any kind of seriously, if you take it any kind of real way, then you should know that you have to talk with respect and in a way that people feel that they can trust you.
Yes.
So if you truly believe in your heart of hearts, believe that the ratchet way is the trustful way, then head on down that road. I do not think the ratchet way is the trustful way. I think the clear, transparent, consistent, it's boring. Sometimes I know people think what I do is boring. I love policy. I know. I went back and got a tax law degree. I went back to school after I got my law degree. I mean, I know. I'm not the most sexy, counselor in terms of like my social media and things like that. But I believe in the word. And I never forget like how many people are struggling.
Wait, did you say you believe in the word?
Work. And the word, but the work too. And I think that at the end of the day, people respect people who work. They respect people who show and prove, not just show up and tweet.
Yeah.
I have to
think
believe
you're absolutely right. I think you're right. I think also people are just hungry for decorum. People are hungry for transparency. People are hungry to understand exactly what is happening. And part of that is because it's so needed right now. We just came out of an administration that showed us what happens when you don't teach your kid how, as Liz Miranda says, how to take an L. We just saw that. So I think going forward, it is going to be
trying to take a butt kicking.
something.
Someone didn't get enough spankings. That's
somebody. But I definitely think as we go forward, what you're going to see is a lot of people are going to start holding elected officials accountable for their actions and their words, and rightfully so. Listen, everybody wants a soapbox and everybody gets on it every now and then. But when people's lives are at stake, that's a different story. that's a different story. And we're seeing that on the federal level big time. I mean,
Oh.
we saw that with McCarthy today going down to Mar-a-Lago to basically be like, yo, I'm trying to be Speaker of the House, and the only way I can do it is letting this petulant child endorse me. So, you know, whatever. However, I think it's going to be an interesting race. It's going to be a spicy year. I'll be right here with my friend all year to make sure that it's going to be crazy and wild. It really is. And I hope that it doesn't get ugly and nasty, because even though I may not agree with everyone who's running or even some of their policies or the way that they have conducted themselves, I genuinely do think that all these people have good character. Right. So at least the people that I know are running. I can't say one bad thing about, it's not like somebody kicked me in the head or whatever. Like, it's just, it's sort of this idea that these people are untouchable. They're not. They're approachable people, and they just happen to be running.
Yeah, their operative word is that they're people, right? And that's sometimes, in a campaign, and this would be advice I give to my future colleagues or anybody who's thinking about a run. Don't lose yourself in the moment. You get this campaign brain, and the win becomes more important than the character or who you are or the ideas that you have. Getting one over somebody can overtake your mindset. So I'm just encouraging y'all to run with your truest self, with your heart out there, being totally honest about what you can do and what you can't do, what you agree with and what you don't agree with, and let the voters decide. Trust people to decide, but don't come in ugly. You campaign ugly, you will lose. You will lose yourself and very likely the election. Don't campaign ugly.
Absolutely. I'm so here for that. Well, this was so much fun. Do you have any final words as we close out your segment?
I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I know I was a fill-in for the amazing Andrea Campbell. But I have to say, there is something about this moment when you think just in 2013, one woman and one woman of color was running for mayor. And now I'm on the city council with these amazing women who all said, I too should be mayor. And I miss my friends, that's for sure. I miss and love my friends so much. But I am so proud of Kim being the acting mayor. I'm so proud of Andrea and Michelle and Anissa. Those are my girls.
Oh, real quick though. I didn't mean to mess up your fan fest.
I know, right? I love y'all. I love you, girl.
Quick. So can you just explain to people when Kim becomes acting mayor and what that looks like? Because from what I understand from the charter, because of the situation, she gets full powers of the mayor.
So that's debated, I guess, but I understand. I believe she has a lot more powers than some people believe. I think she's powerful. She's my friend. I highly respect her. But most importantly, let me just break it down. Because there's a vacancy of mayor, the city council president, which Kim Janey is, becomes the acting mayor until another mayor is elected by the people. Okay, so that's what she's doing. And then the powers that she has and what she can get done, I actually think is pretty expansive because of we're in an emergency situation. And there are certain provisions that really allow for her to get what she needs to get done. So,
and because this is a special circumstance, she still gets to hold the position of city council president, right?
Yes, ma'am. She will be the acting mayor, city council president, and also District 7 city councilor.
Right. So now listen up, y'all. Like, this is important to know, because even though Kim, we don't know if she's running, but if she does run, then that leaves her seat open for District 7. But that is Kim's decision to make. And we want to respect her decision, whatever it is. And we want to give her the space to be an effective acting mayor.
Amen.
Because that is going to be important. This city is about to go through some serious changes. I don't envy any of them who want to be mayor. It's going to be a little bit crunchy. So did I just say crunchy?
I guess, yeah,
I don't know what that,
I don't know where that came from. But I
you
don't
would,
understand what crunchy means. But I will say this, I mean, congratulations to her. And also, let's be honest about the pressure on her and why her success means so much, not just for the city, but for us as Black women who are elected. Let's be very clear. We know the pressure that's put on us. And we also know what is not fair, but the domino effect. If it's funny. If I don't succeed, or if Rachel Rollins doesn't succeed, there's a domino effect about how our leadership is questioned. But when
right,
one of us succeeds, all of a sudden that domino effect doesn't happen, right? All of a sudden it's like, oh, Ayana's succeeding, so therefore domino effect, all women, Black women should succeed.
right.
The negative gets put on all of us. And so for all of us, it is important, again, how we talk about each other,
Yes, God.
how we lift each other up,
Mm-hmm.
talk privately and say, I don't understand what's going on here, and so on and so forth. Maybe that is more appropriate than getting on Twitter and questioning someone, because it can be construed as questioning their qualifications, their character, so on and so forth. We don't do that. We can't afford to do that.
And we don't
It's
have to
already
do
happened
that.
to us.
We don't
So
have to do that.
we don't have to do that
We
either.
don't have
So
to do that.
I think it's really important and incumbent on us, whether you're running or not for mayor, Kim's success is our success.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
And whoever becomes the mayor is the success of the city. So, listen, be diligent, get out there and vote, and make sure that you are telling your people to vote. Make sure you are doing it safely. I'm going to close out this segment. Thank you very much, Councilor Edwards.
Okay.
Lydia with Y, all of the names. Thank you for coming on to Politics and Prosecco. We'll have you on again for your own thing, where we're talking about some of the things that you're doing.
Good.
And yeah, so thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. We are going to close out this episode of Politics and Prosecco. But before you go, I wanted to just make you aware of a few things that are happening. As you can see, we've changed the format of Politics and Prosecco. We are going to post our videos now on YouTube as well, and on IG. And also, I am doing a new YouTube vlog series called New Jack Swing, which launches on February 14th. So if you get a chance, I will put the link to it in my bio on IG and on my Facebook page. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was informative. We didn't throw too much shade. Okay, I did, but they didn't throw too much shade. They were professional as always. But if you have any questions, send them over and I'll send them over to the ladies. So again, thank you all for tuning into Politics and Prosecco. I'm living it up. You should be living it up too. Keep that drink in your hand. See ya.